Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Would you stand up and join me as we sing "This is the Day That the Lord Has Made"? This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. This is the day, this is the day that the Lord has made. That the Lord has made. We will rejoice, and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, this is the day that the Lord has made.
So stay standing. We will pray together. Okay? Let us begin just by closing our eyes, going inward, and finding that peace in our hearts, that peace that passes all understanding. And let us hold the truth of this peace and see this peace filling every heart, every circumstance, and bringing peace for our world. Okay, so Gloria, is there the prayer that you could put up, please? Here we go. So let us say this together. May I be peaceful. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well and strong. May I be happy. And then let us bless each other with this prayer. May you be peaceful. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well and strong. May you be happy. And now look around and send that blessing to each and every person in this room. Send that blessing to everyone who is joining us online. And then we say thank you. Thank you, God. Amen.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity of the Valley Spiritual Center. Thanks for coming out to join us. Fall has finally arrived, right? Yeah, that's worthy of applause. No more 90-degree temperatures, we hope. And we're so happy you're here, and we hope that you find a home here because we like to welcome people into our home. Our spiritual community is one of love and prayer-filled Christ light. And so we welcome each and every one of you, not only during our service, but also after our service to join us in our social hall for refreshments. We'd also like to welcome again George Haver, who's visiting us from Davis, correct? Davis? George is basically in his home as well. You've been with us so long, you might as well just stay here. And our senior minister, Reverend Dalia Adams, is here to provide the message this morning. So thank you, Reverend Dalia Adams, for being here this morning. And we'd like to kick each week off with a young person coming forward to light the Christ candle. And this morning we have a young woman named Bree who was super eager to do this with me this morning. And I was so happy because I'm pretty lazy and I like somebody that really wants to be eagerly up here and do this for me. And you really are doing this for me, not with me. You're doing it for me and everyone else in the sanctuary this morning. This could be the most important part of our Sunday service, because what you're doing is reminding people of their inner Christ light that you so brilliantly exhibit. Each and every Sunday you're here with us, Bree. Bree is just if you look at her eyes, she just exudes light and Christ's love, don't you? That's right. So we're going to give Bree her own special blessing. If you join with me, Bree, you are a beautiful child of God, perfect in every way. You are loved unconditionally, just the way you are. And now we're all going to give ourselves that blessing. I am a beautiful child of God, perfect in every way. I am loved unconditionally, just the way I am. And now, are there any other young people who want to come up on the platform as we sing? Yes. So we've got company this morning. Mina's coming up. Now let's all join together and sing to these two beautiful lights.
Watch out.
I'm a beautiful child of God, a wondrous spirit of love and peace. My light will shine forever. I'm a beautiful child of God. You're a beautiful child of God, a wondrous spirit of love and peace. Your light will shine forever. You're a beautiful child of God. We are beautiful children of God. We are wondrous spirits of love and peace. Our light will shine forever. We are beautiful children of God.
Thank you, George. So again, welcome, and we'd like to welcome all of you that are joining us from the comforts of your home or wherever you may be, but we'd still like to invite you to come down and be with us here in lovely Vacaville, California, and join in this loving environment. And speaking of loving environments, each and every Sunday we have a chaplain on duty, and Pat is standing this morning, and she's got this beautiful stole, so she's easily identifiable after the service. If you are in need of prayer, please seek her out. Everything is kept in strict confidence, so please make good use of her. And now I'm going to have Reverend Dalia Adams come up and make an announcement.
Hello, there we are. Yesterday we had our craft fair and it was a most amazing event. A lot of work, time, preparation went into it. There were phone calls, there was advertisement, there were tears and laughter and frustrations. And then there was a time to plan kids' activities, a bake sale, plan who is going to set up and clean up, plan to go to Costco and buy food and how to advertise it all. So before the event even began, people were working and putting in their love and their energy. And then yesterday, Lucy working, Cindy Hulbert, Catherine Patterson were leading the children's events and brought all kinds of wonderful activity stuff that barely fit in the box when they were leaving. And then we had Bertha Hamilton managing our bake sale, if you will, Warren Spaeth, Dave Rybecki, John Working, setting up and cleaning up, and Marcy, of course, making sure that all of it happened in a way that worked. Plus, she handled the hot dogs. So I know this didn't capture everybody who contributed. So if you did anything to support our craft fair, even if it was sending prayers and good energy or just showing up and spending your good money, please stand up so we can thank you and honor you. And John didn't stand up, but he should have.
Yes, typically when we have events like this and we ask people to stand that had any part of it, the whole congregation stands up, and it's just such a testimony to the involvement that everybody puts into this church. Some people may not be aware, but we actually share our space with another church, and they're called the Bay Area Full Gospel Church, and they have their service today at 1:30 p.m., and they sent out a special invite to all of us here at Unity to come join their service this afternoon. So if you're interested about what else takes place here at Unity, please show up at 1:30 this afternoon. And fellowship afterward with food. Is it better food than our food after our service? Because it might. Yeah. It's 1:30, and it's free lunch, so it might be worth it. Okay. Now join us on November 4th for our fall. We've been doing our fall reflection series, and there's going to be a potluck dinner and movie to wrap things up. And the potluck is at 6 p.m. Bring your favorite dish, and it's a good thing it's at 6 p.m. because also on that day, we're having a work day, Saturday, November 4th, 9 to 12. It won't take up your whole Saturday. We've got really fun things like sweeping cobwebs off the building and picking up trash around the grounds. And one lucky person or a couple of lucky people get to prune all the rose bushes that somebody planted around the church. So that's this coming Saturday, believe it or not. It's already November. And please just take a few hours out of your day to come help out around the church. It's a lot of fun. Oh, I should have mentioned the most important part there at the bottom. I think there'll be coffee and donuts to start the day. So at least come for coffee and donuts and try to sneak out. We'll grab you and make you do a little work before you leave for your donut. And A Little Faith, Conversations from the Heart. It's a podcast that's been going on now. It's a 7-week series. It started back in September, and it's going to be ending Saturday, November 4th. This podcast is available on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and if you don't know what any of those things are, you'll get an email with a link, and you just click on that link and it will take you to the podcast. Okay, so why don't we just take a deep breath and really remind ourselves why we come together as a community each and every Sunday. And this is really the reason why, our statement of faith. So together, let's say, there is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God the good.
Why do we hate? Why do we suffer? Why do we make our mistakes and constantly blame one another? Why is there war? And why is there killing? Have we forgotten some things that we knew back when we were just children? If I had wings, up to heaven, I'd look down from the clouds on everything. Then I could find all the things we've been missing. I would have all the answers if I had wings. Like, why am I here? And where did I come from? And where will I go when my time here on this earth is done? And what will I leave that will go on forever? And what can I do while I'm here to help someone feel better? If I had wings, oh, I'd fly up to heaven. I'd look down from the clouds on everything. Then I could find all the things we've been missing. I would have all the answers if I had wings. If I had wings. If I had wings.
Thank you so much, George. That's beautiful. So has anybody here ever asked themselves, why am I here? What am I doing here on this earth? What is this all about? Whose idea was this anyway? I mean, and that's what we've been talking about actually all year. How shall we live? Why am I here really guides how shall I live? How shall we live? And it keeps coming back to, in one way or another, that I am here to know that I am one with God. I am here to live as the light of God, the love of God. Whatever answer we come up with, or at least in my own life, when I've come up with answers that are less than that, they fall short. You know, I reach a goal, I strive, I work hard, I achieve it, and then the next day there's this letdown, or maybe the next month or the next year. Each and every goal is wonderful, and working toward it is great. And by itself, it's not enough. We must live knowing we are the light of God, we are the love of God. We must live knowing that we have the power to do amazing, amazing things. And that power to know that we can do amazing things requires faith. Because there are so many times where we're in a position and we want to take that step forward, and what if it doesn't work? Or what if this is a bad idea? What if, and our energy drains, our determination falters. And it's faith, it's that assurance of things hoped for. It's that knowing, that inner guidance, that inner experience of being one with God that allows us to keep going and to do that which we are called to do. So this year in our Fall Reflections program, we have been focusing on faith. And as we've done so, some of us have been reading a book by Mitch Albom called Have a Little Faith, A True Story. And the book is really fun to read. It reads like a novel, but it has very deep understanding and ideas. It's well worth the read. We've had small groups discussing, talking about, and sharing their ideas of faith. The first week, we talked about the fact that we are called to do amazing things, that God is calling us in many different ways. Then we talked about what God is in our lives, how we experience God, and the importance of the Sangha, or the sacred community, and that how that opens our hearts to that which we call happiness and love, and that faith itself is a journey. And so this is our last week for Fall Reflections, and I want to talk about how faith changes everything. It absolutely changes everything. I've given many definitions of faith as we've gone through these 7 weeks. My favorite definition, though, is Charles Fillmore saying, faith is the power to do the seemingly impossible. How many people here would like to do the seemingly impossible? Okay. Dan, you wouldn't? Sorry about that. Some of you may have heard the story, especially if you've been in classes, and I've told it on the platform a while back. But I was, for a while, part of a team of psychologists at a regional teaching hospital in Florida. And the hospital was cutting edge in a lot of ways, and having psychologists on staff as part of the medical team was kind of new at that time. And I was part of the psychology staff in the hospital-based long-term rehab. We had people in rehab for a year or sometimes even longer, learning how to do amazing things, really. I mean, the transformations were really something. But the psychologists that were part of this were very academic. They were very research-oriented. They were very competitive. They were all about being cutting edge, not the typical picture that you get of, psychologist-type people sitting in a circle saying kumbaya to each other. I mean, these guys were cutthroat, but high-achieving and amazing people, and they were developing new psychological treatments to go along with the medical treatments. I shared an office with another psychologist, so our office was particularly large. And one day, I don't know how it happened, but we all ended up sitting in a circle, and each person was sharing their career goals, the goals that they had. And I noticed, because I was unity and sitting in a circle was like I knew how to do that, right? So here we were. And each person is sharing these lofty goals, these treatment protocols that they were working on, and how they were going to achieve better healing outcomes for burn patients, stroke patients, people with spinal cord injuries, traumatic brain injuries. And like a true psychologist and professional, I was sitting there trying to figure out what I was going to say as everyone else was talking. You know how we do sometimes when we're not listening. And I was coming up with a pretty good sounding spiel to share, and it was about the treatment of chronic pain. And I was the second to the last person, and it came to me, and out of my mouth blurts, "I want to walk on water." Okay? Talk about I want to die, I want to run out of here. Who said this? I mean, who opened their mouth and talked like this in front of these colleagues? Everyone cleared the room. I mean, that ended it. But I reflected on that a long time because first I was embarrassed and then I wanted to figure out why on earth did I blurt something like this? And I blurted it because it's absolutely true. I truly want to do the seemingly impossible. How many people, would you like to do the seemingly impossible? And isn't that what unity is about? It's tapping into that power within us so that over and over and over again we can do what is seemingly impossible. And that's what faith is all about, according to our co-founder, Charles. That when we know how to truly have faith, we open up the door to walking on water, to doing the seemingly impossible. Now, when I was a little girl, I was taught that faith is a gift, and faith was believing in that big man in the sky with the white beard and the white hair who wasn't very nice because he always kept ticking off everything I did wrong, so I didn't want this guy in my life too much, but I had to believe in him, right? Today, faith means something very, very different. We have stories, very familiar stories of faith, and I could have done slide after slide. Nelson Mandela always comes to mind. After 27 years in prison, he came out with an open heart and a passion to serve his people, and he became the leader of his country. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we all know that story, and the changes that he was able to bring about through his faith. Viktor Frankl, the story of the man who in a concentration camp was able to hold on to the truth of who he was, despite the most horrendous experiences. Bernie Siegel was a doctor that I was very inspired by. He was an oncologist, a surgeon, and he formed a group of cancer patients he called ECAPs, exceptional cancer patients. And he would listen to them, and he discovered that these patients that were beating the odds, because they were all the ones that beat the odds, all were tapping into a power within themselves. And he believed that tapping into that inner sense of who they were beyond this body, that contributed to the fact that they beat the odds. Larry Dossey's written so many wonderful books. They're fun reading, and it's about the truth of our oneness and the truth that something greater than what is apparent lives in and through us. One of his books is Prayer is Good Medicine. And he has stories of people doing the same thing, beating the odds by tapping into that which is within them. And of course, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, their story is an amazing story of faith. They went from a small group of people who gathered to pray together for an hour in the evening to Unity Village and the Unity Movement, and we're all here because of their faith. In this 7-part podcast series, I've been talking to people, and the first question I've asked each and every person is, what does faith mean to you? And this list doesn't capture everything people have told me, but it's just the first words that came to mind as I made the list. I've been told that faith is permission. Permission to seek whatever I'm called to seek. It's permission to try out different ways of understanding. It's permission to step out in faith, if you will, and do what my heart's desire is. It's permission to be who I am without apology. I've been told that faith is that inner knowing that this is what I'm here to do, and this is what is wanting to evolve, and knowing that there is something within me that will bring it about. I've been told that faith is that inner guidance, because when we step out in faith and we're out on this path, if we will, there's so many times we get to a crossroads and it's like, what do I do? Which way is the right way? I'm trying to do the right thing here, but if I go this way, what if? And if I go this way, what if? And those what ifs really bring us down. But it's that guidance that says, go this way, and then just trust. And then, of course, trust was something that I heard about in these podcasts. Or that assurance, that sense of it'll be okay, no matter what turns out, even if it looks a little different from what I'm picturing. The essence of what I'm wanting to be and what I'm trying to do is coming about. God's greatest good is unfolding, as the ministers speak for that, right? Faith is courage. I heard that over and over again. It's that courage to go forward, to be all that I can be, and it's tenacity. It's that ability to stick with it, the dedication, the I'm not quitting even though it feels tough. It's that inner voice that is everything. That inner voice that lets us know God is. And God is within us, around us, everywhere present. And again, presence was something that I heard. It's one thing to say God is within, and it's another thing to experience that presence. And we say presence and power because once that presence is the experience, the power flows out of that, because we know that we are never alone in anything that we are trying to achieve. The power of God works through us. And it's serendipity, the way things just somehow come together. Do you know those moments where it almost feels like there's this giant puppeteer in the universe bringing all these parts together in the most amazing ways, in ways I never could have dreamed of? And I've got story after story after story of that. When I was a little girl, I dreamed of going to Heidelberg University. Years and years later, when I was a college graduate, I'm in a cafeteria line and someone says to me, and I was in a cafeteria line in Heidelberg. It was my second day in Heidelberg. And someone comes to me and says, there's a message for you on the bulletin board. And the message was, there is a job opening at Heidelberg University. I thought you might be interested. I made an appointment for you for Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. If you're interested, show up. Love, Anna, a young woman I had met at a party about 6 months before. I met her once. So I go to the bulletin board. The next morning, I show up at the interview. I get the job. And my vision, the vision I had as a little girl, was walking across campus carrying books. And that came to be. You know, that puppeteer was really active in this, right? Or I had this burning desire. I never wanted to be a psychologist, don't tell anybody. But I had a burning desire to know, what was it within people? What was it within a human being that allowed that person to transform, to heal the most horrendous trauma. I wanted to know that so badly. And I thought the best way to learn that was to get a PhD in clinical psychology. So my vision was that I'm living in the Virgin Islands. They have a small college. They don't have a graduate school. I don't have any money. There's no way I'm going to graduate school, right? But one day, at the high school where I taught, they were administering the GREs, the graduate record exam, which at that time was required by almost every graduate school. So I paid the money that I could barely afford, and I sat and I took that test. And as I'm taking the test, I'm thinking, this is nuts. I wasted this money. There's no graduate school. I'm not moving. I don't have the money for graduate school. And then life changed, things happened. I ended up in Ohio at the end of a summer, and I figured, well, I could apply and the next year go to graduate school. And there were 4 possible schools, and each one of them, in different ways and very rudely, told me, we're not interested in you. We don't like people like you. They had this track that people newly with a bachelor's degree in psychology was their desired student, and that wasn't me. In fact, I had never had a single psychology course in my whole life. How do we know you can learn at your age? I think I was about 40. On and on, really unkind things, but I had this vision in my head that I was going to do this. So what I would say to them is, what would you want me to do? What do I have to do? And they tell me to do something. And one of them told me that I needed to design, implement, write up, and present a clinical psychology research study, and I needed to either present it at a national convention or publish it in one of the top journals in psychology. I had no idea this was hard to do. I had no idea that most graduate students never achieve this, and some professors didn't. They said that's what I had to do, so I did it. I presented my findings in Boston at a national convention, came back and said, okay, now can I apply? So, spoiler alert, I did get my PhD in psychology, but it was faith. I gave myself permission even though I had never taken a psychology class. There was a knowing that I could do this, and my guidance kept taking me there. There was tenacity, there was that inner voice, there was that sense of presence, and things kept falling together. This is the experience of faith. This is why we learn about it. This is why we choose to have faith. This is why faith is the source of amazing growth within us. And in our book, there were 2 men of God, if you will. There was the rabbi and his story of faith. Not much was said about ups and downs, but there was this picture that the rabbi was always in a state of deep faith and certainty. But his faith changed so many people. Faith really does change everything. And then the other story of faith was Henry, a young man who started out as a criminal in jail, robbing people, robbing synagogues, and he ended up in the ministry because he made a promise one day that if God saved his life, he would serve God. Both stories of faith were how faith changes everything. But one of the most profound stories of faith in that book is the story of the author, Mitch Albom. He had been very, very successful as an author, a journalist, sports journalist, playwright, screenwriter. He even had musical talent, and pieces that he wrote ended up in movies, musical pieces. He was busy. He had grown up as a child very much immersed in the Jewish faith. And in his 20s, he just stopped doing religion. No special reason. He wasn't disillusioned. He was just busy. And he had goals. He wanted to be famous and rich and successful, and he was. And into that scenario comes this realization. You know, the rabbi had asked him to write an eulogy, and he realized that he had been running from God much of his life without intending to. He wrote in his book, "Man likes to run from God. It's a tradition." I really like that. I mean, we do that. We do that. But when the rabbi said, "Will you do my eulogy?" this was a first step in faith growing in Mitch Albom. He said yes. He figured it would take him 2 or 3 visits with the rabbi. You know, so he was essentially committing 2 or 3 visits with the rabbi and the writing of the eulogy. And so this was Mitch Albom's mustard seed of faith. He wasn't giving very much in his mind, but it became much more. It became many, many visits, many, many conversations, many times over that he opened to faith. What he wrote in his book was, "This is a story about believing in something, and the 2 very different men who taught me how. It took me to churches and synagogues, to the suburbs and the city, to the us versus them that divides faith around the world." So we think this is a story about the rabbi and maybe Henry, but it's the story of Mitch Albom and how the rabbi and Henry changed him, how the faith they taught him changed him. In fact, changed everything. This might not be completely up to date, but it was the best I could do without a deep dive on the internet. At this point, he is a founder and supporter, and sometimes still actively involved in the governance of an organization called the Dream Fund. And the Dream Fund provides scholarships to artists. He is founder and contributor to an organization called A Time to Help. And this is a volunteer organization in his home city of Detroit. He is a founder and contributor to SAY Detroit, which is an organization that provides financial help and support to organizations that take care of people without homes and without food. So it provides food and shelter for people. He is a founder and contributor to a Hole in the Roof Foundation. And this organization supports and contributes to religious organizations that support the homeless and the hungry. And he is also founder and contributor to Have Faith Haiti. And they go down to Haiti and they support people who are in need of food and shelter, but particularly children. They have children's programs. And my guess is he has his fingers in more things. So this is a journey of faith. This is what it means when we open our hearts to what is most true, when we open our hearts to God within us, It changes us. It changes everything. So the story of faith in this case is that Mitch Albom is a man of faith. And I'd like to end with a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Faith is taking the first step, even when we don't see the whole staircase. So I invite everybody to open to the truth within them and keep taking that first step, even when we can't see what follows. And so it is.
In the silence, there is peace. In the silence, there is unspoken joy. In the silence, there's release from a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that can never be said, and right here in this holy silence, I find God. I find myself. In the silence, there is peace. In the silence, there is unspoken joy. In the silence, there's release from a world full of chaos and noise. Still I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that can never be said, and right here in this holy silence, I find God. I find God. I find myself.
And so we go deeper into our time of meditation, deep within, to that sacred space within us where we find God, where we find the truth of who we are. We allow our breath to carry us deeper. deeper into that sacred space. And there, in the presence of God, we find permission to be all that we are called to be. There, in the wisdom of God, we find guidance. And that inner voice that assures us. In the silence, we find the presence that we can trust. We find the courage to say yes to that which is calling. And so for in the silence, for a little while, simply stand in that presence, the presence that is God. In the presence that is God, I offer a mustard seed of faith, and I am blessed beyond my wildest dreams. Holding that affirmation in your heart, allow yourself to gently and easily bring your attention back to this room, back to this time and place. If your eyes are still closed, please open your eyes. Then I invite you to look around and see the amazing light that is shining on each and every face. And know that that light of God is shining as you and through you in this very moment. And then join me in saying thank you. Thank you, God. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Dalia. Wonderful message and faith. Our ushers are coming forward right now, where we prepare to take part in a very sacred act, and that's giving of our time, our talent, and our treasure. And we provide many ways in which you can give. You can text the word give to this number that's up on the board. You can go to our website, click the donate button. If you like collecting credit card points, you can set up a recurring payment for your credit card. Or you can also just write a check or give cash. And if you're not in a position to do any of that, just put your hand over the basket as it comes around and give a special blessing to our spiritual community. Before we do that, we'd like to bless our tithes and offerings. And if you join with me with the words that are up on the board, God's love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am and have all that I give and receive, I am grateful.
I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. Feel free to join me here. We'll sing joy. I send my joy over the mountains. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my power over the mountains. I send my power over the sea. I send my power into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send peace over the mountains. I send peace over the sea. I send peace into the heavens, and it returns to me, and it returns to me, to me, to me.
Now, if you would, we'd like to conclude our service by having everybody stand as you're able, and we'd like to form a circle. Keep in mind, there are some people who like to join hands. There's some people who don't like to join hands, so just be respectful of that. If you're not in a comfortable space to hold hands, just keep your hands down at your side. We're going to join together in singing the peace song.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. We are one holy family. We celebrate our oneness and honor our diversity. And then please join me in our closing affirmation. Please hold this affirmation in your mind and in your heart throughout the week. Together, I take each step in faith. One more time. I take each step in faith. And so it is. Take time to greet each other, to love each other, to hug each other, to dance with each other, genuflect, if you will, and then join us for fellowship. And come on back. Get to know the church that is renting our space every Sunday afternoon.